Hello my viewers. So in this scene I am tearing out the old breaker panel. I had already removed the bus bars the day before, but now it's time to take out the box. I don't know if I really need to narrate blow by blow as to what I'm really doing here. It's almost self-explanatory. So I want to talk about what is sort of going on in the Florida House, where they want to eliminate HOAs. Now, I'm no fan of HOAs. I never have lived in an HOA by preference. Matter of fact, I used to have my CAM license, which is a Community Association Manager's license. But, it sounds strange, I know, that I would have a CAM license and, hate HOAs. But that's mainly because of the way that HOAs have formed through the years. They had got to be way too powerful where they could wreak havoc on the individual homeowners' lives. So now Governor DeSantis has already passed legislation where he kind of reined in some of the powers that the HOAs had. But I think further reining in needs to be done. Now, I understand why some people may want to live in an HOA, because there are certain benefits to HOAs. Okay, I want to first talk about some of the benefits of an HOA. Let's say, for example, you want to live in a neighborhood where your lawn is being taken care of by the homeowners association, so you don't have to deal with it. You don't even have to lift a finger outside. You never have to worry about the roofing. You never have to worry about the paint outside of your home. And in a lot of ways, some people don't care to mess with all that. They would just as soon let somebody else deal with it, because their life is already full of other challenges. Maybe they have a job where they don't want to mess with that kind of stuff. Okay? And they just don't care to mess with it. So I understand that certain people may want to have that benefit. And the elderly, by the way, okay? As you get older, you don't want to have to go out there and mow the lawn and manicure your yard and things like that. So the problem is when the HOA does not maintain the exterior of your home, okay? However, that they can dictate what you can have outside of your home. That's the problem. So, and I think there becomes sort of a misunderstanding in a lot of ways about that, because then you get condo commandos. I remember we used to call them that. They're called Karens, where you'd have people driving around their golf cart with a clipboard, and they're taking pictures and writing down what they see and things like that, just so that they can find everybody in their HOA for small, ridiculous infractions. Okay, maybe they got a spot of dead grass or something like that. And in fact, that's why somebody was actually put in jail because their grass was brown. Okay, that's what I mean. Things like that. It's just out of hand. HOAs, a lot of times, they will charge exorbitant maintenance dues, okay, and special assessments and things like that most people can't afford that. The common working person can't afford that. The places I had worked, though, was never a problem for the people that lived in the HOAs, because they had money. But if this HOA were to exist, say, in an area where regular working people lived, that had to budget every little dime, then I don't think that works very well, because then you see you have these people going, like I said, you have these Karens going around, and they're fining everybody for ridiculous infractions, and that's a problem in itself. I don't really believe that the Florida legislature will be able to eliminate HOAs completely. For example, look at the villages. How would you eliminate HOAs in the villages? You couldn't. It's impossible. Okay? Because that's not what those kind of people want. They want an HOA looking after all of their yard maintenance and things like that. They don't want to deal with that kind of thing. You know, and then not to mention, if the HOA where you live has amenities like swimming pools and tennis courts and golf courses and all this other sort of thing, who's going to maintain that stuff? You see? I mean, sure enough, I mean, the pool would go green and the tennis court would be trashed up and everything in no time. You cannot eliminate an HOA completely. There's no way. So, I mean, I'm thinking that these HOAs simply need to be reined in, a lot of their powers, because they have been able to force foreclosure on a lot of the homes that are within their HOA, and to, of course, levy exorbitant fees and fines and things like that. And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll get an attorney involved when it comes to fees and fines, and the attorney's fees are just ridiculous. I mean, we're talking in the thousands of dollars for maybe, having a bush that the HOA doesn't approve of, or maybe having grass that's too long, or stupid stuff, or maybe having a car or truck that they don't like. I mean, so now, if people want to live in an HOA, okay, they should be able to live in an HOA. Personally, I don't care if you want to live in an HOA that requires men to wear tuxedos and women to wear ballroom gowns 24/7. I mean, that's up to the individual, and it should always be up to the individual. But, if that's not something you want, you should be able to avoid it. Now, one of my pet peeves, though, are these people that go around a neighborhood and try to get people to sign on to an HOA. Because if you buy a home in an area that is not in an HOA, that means you don't want to live in an HOA. So why should somebody be able to come along and force you into living into an HOA? That is a huge issue right there in itself. Now, I understand that there are some people that are not living in HOAs that may wish they were living in an HOA, but they're too invested, we'll say, in where they live, where they can't really afford to sell and move. So I really think that for people like that, they should be able to form an HOA, okay, where you can have like-minded people who want to be able to live in an HOA, but doesn't want to really force other people in the neighborhood into an HOA. Let's say you want to have a corporation to take care of your outside of your lawn and things like that. You don't, sometimes it can work out cheaper that way if you can get maybe a contractor to mow several lawns rather than just one lawn, so you can maybe get a better deal. Like, okay, so maybe it makes sense for some people to form an HOA, but to force people into an HOA is terribly wrong. I really think that there has to be able to be like a, kind of a middle road here somehow where people can live the way they want to, and then some people who want to have somebody else take care of things for them. There's got to be ways to do that. So if you want to have a corporation or something like that, then why not? I mean, there's other places in the country where they have corporations. I mean, they're not really even considered as a homeowner association. See, like here in Florida, you actually have to have a license, a community association manager's license, in order to manage a homeowner association. Well, that is all well and good. I guess that it might keep a manager out of jail simply to have basic knowledge about the laws regarding community associations. I guess if you insist on living within an HOA or corporation, you really need to have somebody looking out for your legal best interests, because there's going to be somebody out there wanting to sue you for just name it, okay, unforeseen things, you might say, especially if you have any kind of a corporation that even looks like an HOA. Yeah, I don't understand why they want to do away with HOAs altogether. I think that that's really something that isn't going to pass through the House in Florida. I just don't see how that could possibly work out. There's just too many things wrong with that. Like I was saying, I used to have a community association manager's license, and I used to have a Florida real estate salesman's license, which I allowed to lapse many years ago. And if you enjoy the content that I'm bringing while I'm doing my work and things like that in high speed, please let me know. And if there's something you'd like me to talk about in future videos, I appreciate that. And please, you don't have to like the video, but I do appreciate it if you subscribe and comment. Alright, so now at this point here in time in this video, I'm going to be hooking up some of the breakers, but the problem is that the breakers that I have will not really fit properly in this particular panel. Used to be able to use some Cutler hammer and Siemens breakers in any Square D box, but you cannot do that anymore. If it's a Homeline Square D box, you have to use Square D Homeline breakers. Back. So I just got back from Lowe's, picking up items I'm going to need for tomorrow. Here's some of the things I picked up. Some breakers that'll work in that Homeline breaker panel, okay, because I have to get all new breakers. That's quite unfortunate, but anyway, picked up some wire that I'm going to need. So yep, tomorrow another video. Thank you for watching.